In my previous video regarding the math map, I was answering the question, will the math map prepare my students for college? Check out that video. The short answer was yes, as best I can tell with the data we have available. Now, several comments appeared since then, as my wife had to point out to me, like, oh, people watched it and are asking us questions. And so one of the main questions, or several questions grouped together as a category, has to do with learning arithmetic, multiplication, division, long division, borrowing, doing the number crunching, as it's popularly called. Well, what about that? Will the math map help with that? I have a student who's struggling with long division, and the math map doesn't seem to do enough. So, first of all, I am not officially affiliated with the math map. My family uses classical conversations, and one of their products is the math map. We're using that, but we are not affiliated with the math map, the team, the help service in any way. As I said, I just flipped through it and got excited about it, comparing it to all the college math books I had to deal with. Well, my wife shared with me that there were these comments and questions and suggested I write a reply, and I wrote a reply. And then, being the communications expert she is, she said, do a video. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, here's a video. So I've got the script. We'll see if I follow it. The math map is mathematics, not arithmetic. There's a difference. The math map is mathematics, not arithmetic. There's a difference. Now, I am not a homeschool teacher myself, except, like, of course, helping my wife, but she's the main one doing it. I'm not a grade school teacher, never have been. I think it's a much harder job than I have as a college lecturer. So I'm a layman. I'm not an expert at teaching kids how to do long division. I'm not an expert at teaching kids how to add fractions. So I'm speaking as a layman and from my own personal experience. The short answer to the question is the math map is not an arithmetic curriculum. If you want to learn pen and paper arithmetic, that is a different subject than mathematics, and there are plenty of good books for it. There's a popular anecdote about Albert Einstein, that he wasn't any good at math, right? Einstein's a genius, right? General theory of relativity and related stuff, but he wasn't good at math. Well, properly said, that should say Albert Einstein was not good at arithmetic. Albert Einstein was not good with numbers and number crunching. I think if you rephrase it that way and correct it, I believe it. And at any rate, it's a believable anecdote, right? Now, you have to be good at mathematics to be good at physics. Mathematics is a language of physics. You can't speak the theory of general relativity without speaking mathematics. Like the famous equation, E equals mc squared, that's mathematics. That's a mathematical model. Einstein could speak mathematics. He had to be able to, else he couldn't tell people what the general theory of relativity is. But I do believe, and it's very believable, that he was not good with the numbers, number crunching, arithmetic. They're different things. They're very different things. Now, I would be the reverse of Einstein. In school, I was good at grade school math. Through high school, I was a straight A student in math, as it was called math. Now, looking back, I realize it was arithmetic. I was good at repeating algorithms with different numbers. You can plop down any long division problem in front of me, I can get started. And then I got to college, and college mathematics felt very different. When you're in having to prove theorems, understand the logic of it, understand integers, rational functions, real numbers, imaginary numbers, vectors and vector spaces and fields and groups and rings and differential equations. It was so different than the mathematics I had done in high school, or what I called mathematics. I was good at number crunching. I was good at long division, and I didn't need it. I didn't use it. I had to be able to do mathematics, and I couldn't do it. Or I shouldn't say I couldn't do it. It was a fight. It was a struggle. I was not prepared. Straight A student in high school, being excellent at long division, adding fractions, that didn't help me in college math. That didn't help me with physics. Now, certainly it doesn't hurt to be good with numbers. Certainly it helps to like have a few numbers show up and like you can handle it. But I hardly ever did long division or adding fractions in college. It was the logic, it was the proofs, it was understanding what multiplication is, understanding what division is, understanding things that elements that cannot be divided. It was so different. The disconnect was real. I also mentioned as an anecdote, I'm pretty sure on the SAT I scored at the 99th percentile on the SAT before attending college, between high school and college. I'm not saying that to brag. And like it was in the 90s. I think it was 99th percentile. I could do arithmetic, and that's what was on the SAT. And then in college, mathematics classes were my worst subject. And then after 4 years of college, before grad school, I had to take the GRE, Graduate Record Examination, kind of like the SAT, but for grad school. And I had a hard time on that too. The math questions were back to being like the ones that were on the SAT, and I hadn't solved questions like that for 4 years. Again, the disconnect is astounding. It's astounding. And isn't that why we're homeschooling in the first place? This disconnect between what we ought to be learning and what institutional schools tend to teach us? I have total respect for the teachers out there that work hard to give excellence in the classroom, to work to be excellent teachers for their students and excellent employees for their employers. They're doing the best they can with the circumstances that God puts them in. I'm not criticizing hardworking teachers, but I will criticize curriculum. Just it's in a rut of mathematics curriculum. It's doing a bunch of arithmetic, doing a bunch of number crunching. We temporarily can't use a calculator and have to do the stuff that in practice and in grad school you'll reach for the calculator to do for you. That is not mathematics. It's perhaps worthwhile. You want to be comfortable with numbers? Sure. You don't want to have to reach for a calculator to have a sense that a number might be off or wrong. On the other hand, it was a joke of mine that in graduate school, in my math classes, in the notes, so grad school, my math classes, in my handwritten notes, the only numbers were the dates. If that helps to make the point across, the only numbers in my graduate math notes were the dates. I'm 100% certain I never used long division in graduate school. I'm 100% certain I never had to know the basic arithmetic that got me straight A's through high school. Being able to do that in grad school was the disconnect. It was not preparing me for graduate school. So I think I've rambled enough. I think you get the idea. I hope you get the idea. The math map is a mathematics curriculum, not an arithmetic curriculum. The math map is teaching you the language of mathematics. Well, what if we've never had a PhD in mathematics? Right. The classical conversations also teaches the history timeline for people who don't have a history degree, Latin declension noun endings, and I hear those and like, what? But you don't have a Latin degree? Believe in yourself? Maybe that's the wrong thing. I have read G.K. Chesterton's Orthodoxy. Trust in God? Trust in God putting you as the teacher of your student? Sometimes I have to teach things the next day that I taught myself the day before. Sometimes that happens. The urgency, the pressure to have to teach something can help you learn it. The math map is a mathematics curriculum. If you have someone struggling with long division, that's an arithmetic problem. Arithmetic is a separate curriculum. If you have someone struggling with adding fractions, that's arithmetic. Get an arithmetic curriculum to supplement that. At the same token, if you have someone that's just wasting away in the rut, who gets it, I get it, don't make me do another arithmetic problem. The math map is a place where they can thrive and really learn the meat of mathematics for physics, for statistics, for analytics, for computer science, and thrive. Maybe it's not for everybody. Neither are those branches that I just mentioned. Neither are they for everybody. And then Again, aren't we homeschooling because everyone is different enough where a custom home curriculum is worth it? That's one of the factors, the disconnect between institutional school and what you need in a college education. Isn't that one of the reasons we're homeschooling? Being able to adapt the pace. You have someone excelling, you have someone struggling, you can adapt the pace. All that's there. The math map does and does not do some things. The math map presents the language of math, the way classical conversations presents other things in an apparently advanced way. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to share them. My wife will let me know they're there and have me write another video. So have a lovely day. You can do it. You can do mathematics. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the learning, and may we give God the glory in all that we do. See you next time.